Welcome to Caleb Can't Read. I'm Jordan Rabel.
I'm Caleb Terrence.
You got anything to add?
To what?
I don't know.
It's not add to what? I don't even know what the topic is.
Yeah, you do. It's a continuation of Mr. Dickey.
We're continuing on Philip K. Dick. Do you have like a summary?
I do, yeah.
Why don't you get on that?
I will. It's just that, some professionals, as we are, they like to ramble on for 10, 15, 20 minutes at a time. And it's just like sometimes 2 minutes just ain't cutting it,
I suppose.
Actually, you know what? No, I don't care about your shit anymore. I've moved on. So I do want to say top of this, we are not psychiatrists, psychologists, or anything else. What happened to Philip K. Dick is kind of anyone's guess because he did not seek professional help. So while we are going to refer to this man, I'm sure at some point, as a schizoid, that's not a professional answer.
I mean, you don't need to. I mean, you don't need to use that exact language. You could just say schizophrenic. That's like,
it's my word.
Is that like, unless
my
that's
grandmother was.
I mean, that's not like a medical term, but that's like asking forgiveness for like calling like a person with Down syndrome a Downey Ranger. And then just being like, oh, well, I'm not a medical professional.
Best Power
So
Ranger.
it's like you could just
I'm
say...
not a medical professional, therefore I won't speak in medical terms.
You understand. You'll have to forgive me here. I'm
about to say every slur.
Like, that's not how that works, Jordan. You can still
fair
just
enough.
call him schizophrenic. That's not...
I don't even know if that's a term that they use anymore. Like,
schizophrenic?
At all. Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
okay, well, that's fair, but that's not calling him a... I'm just saying schizoid, maybe.
Mr. Looney over here. Yeah, I don't know.
Fucking, yeah.
Look, we're here to make fun of him. So I wrote down this stuff. I was reading the summary that I made and everything for what goes on in his life. If you have any questions at any point, I can clarify. But it made sense to me, all right? So just bear with me.
And if anyone was waiting... You know what? We're fucking busy. Sorry.
Yeah, tough shit. Honestly, we're adults. If we were both in college when we started this, then it'd be like, yeah, all right, yeah, every week. But no. So, on our last episode, we went over the early life of Philip Kindred Dick, born alongside his twin sister Jane, who unfortunately passed shortly after their birth. His parents had the headstone carved with both their children's names, reserving a spot for their son. An event which Philip K. Dick would say haunted him his entire life. Phil got his start in science fiction in the mid-1950s, where he quickly showed a talent for storytelling. However, sci-fi was seen as a lower form of writing, and Dick wanted to be known as a tried-and-true author. So in 1962, he released The Man in the High Castle, his attempt at bringing science fiction to high literature. And as much as the book was regarded as one of the best the genre had ever seen, it was only sci-fi nerds that took notice. Crushed, Philip K. Dick leaned further into science fiction, where he created other classics such as Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep and Ubik. But all his stories...
Never heard of Ubik.
Huh?
Never heard of Ubik. Which one's that?
That was the one where they're like trapped in somebody's mind and they're stuck in like the 1950s or something, or the 1930s, and they start growing cold and dying, and they're not sure why, and the boss is like, find Ubik. And, like, Ubik can be anything they want because it's
bud.
ubiquitous. Yeah, I don't know. But all his stories seem to be about what's beyond the veil of reality and things never being quite what they seem. When we last left him, Dick had just gotten his fourth divorce, turned his home into a trap house, got invited to a convention where he stood on stage and warned people of their impending doom, then lived with the journalist for 2 weeks before insulting him and his wife and moving out to try and kill himself. Any questions?
What was the impending doom?
He said that we have the Turing test for like androids to see whether they're human, but what if they get too smart and they're able to fake the Turing test results, and then they're going to kill us all? Terminator, if you will.
Wait, and this is him, and this is not a book premise, and that was the biggest concern.
Yeah, well, to people on the
concern.
outside, yeah, people who weren't living with him and seeing him do a ton of drugs, yeah, they're like, huh, this guy might be a real loony.
If you're like stressing about the end of the world and your concern is robots taking over,
yeah,
it's not
You're pretty low risk, honestly.
It's
It's
like-
like, oh, you're not dangerous.
It's
You're
like, hey
just
man, you're
dumb.
just stressing, man. You're not concerned about the end of the world.
You're
like
not
you're not
concerned
on
about
well.
the real shit.
You
'Cause
start
actually-
eating meals, fucking sleeping.
Well, this is all going on during the Cold War too. Now that I think about it, like there was a real threat of nuclear disaster going on. And it's
I know,
just like,
right? Like,
robots. You know, it's like
robots.
no.
That's not. Yeah, that's not it, man. Look, I would be really excited right now if we get through this and, we're still able to, then worry about robots. But it's not robot worrying time. It's nuclear.
Yeah, once we all get together
I say the
as
thing?
a
Yeah, I
world.
did.
Once we all get together as like one nation kind of thing, recreate Pangea as a whole, unified species, and then we start doing we start fucking with our own technology, then we can be worried. But
Then
right
we'll
now
be
we're
concerned.
using our technology to kill each other very, very fast on purpose.
Like, really bad.
Don't need to worry about an AI doing it for me. Now, after Dick's suicide attempt, he knew he needed help with his drug addiction. Again, he was on a 70 pills a day habit at this point.
Of what?
Pills.
Just-
I don't think
just-
he knew.
Just pills.
Pretty much.
How do you-
Honestly, probably Quaaludes.
He had to know what it was.
Barbiturates.
You don't develop a habit taking random shit. You develop
You're
chemical
right.
dependency by taking the same shit.
Actually, I want to say they were barbiturates. Quaaludes. That kind of stuff. He was a lewd dude, I think.
All right.
However, most places, they wouldn't even take you unless you were a heroin addict, as the rising heroin epidemic in the 1970s was becoming a national issue. So Dick feigned being a heroin addict to get help from a Canadian program called Calais.
Like, look, we'll take heroin addicts. It's easy work for us. They're very sleepy. We just like,
Yeah.
we just
Really
kind of
clock in
like guide
for
them
4-hour
around,
shifts.
fucking,
Yeah,
put
exactly.
blankets on them,
No,
tell
for-
them not to do any more fucking heroin. But no, you're out of your fucking mind and active. I am not wrestling you down, dude. Like,
Yeah, you're awake all the time. This is a pain in the ass.
that's why like Portland's okay and Salem's so scary.
Yeah.
They fuck with meth down there, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
it's terrifying, and they're also ripped.
Because they have nothing else to do but work out. And it's a good cut, too.
It doesn't
You're not
make
eating.
sense. It just looks like it's like a bunch of weird meth Vikings roaming the streets.
Yeah, they always look like the Joker's bad guys from the Arkham games. You know, they're just
Oh shit!
Now, from what I understand, Calais, the group he went to, they work the same as a similar group called Synanon. Now, if you don't know what Synanon is, they're actually a cult disguised as a rehab facility that was quite successful back in this day.
I thought it was just a mall chain.
Synanon?
Never mind.
Now, they are still around, by the way, but I think they're mostly in Germany at this point, Synanon.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, they do work on your drug addiction, but whereas a cult usually needs to break down your personality before they build you back up into their belief system, their victims are already at their lowest point. It's fucking brilliant, actually. They basically make you their workhorse and say it's part of their recovery program, and they just steal all your money.
Steal your money and make you do free labor.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I mean, it's evil, but it's great. So anyway, I
I
bring
know
up...
it's great, but it sounds like it worked.
Yeah, it does.
And
I
they're
mean, it's
still
still around. You know?
They're still around in Germany.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're not
wow.
going to go into the whole thing about forced labor. So anyway, I bring up Synanon because while Calais was not necessarily affiliated with them, they pulled the exact same shit. And that's where Phil went. I couldn't find any interviews where he went over it more than that, though. Like, yeah, that was a thing. But it seemed that he was in a better place cognitively than other people in the program because he wasn't actually a heroin addict. So he got the help he needed, but he also instantly recognized that Calais was a scam. Yet, as I mentioned at the end of our last episode, while he could always recover from his drug habit, no one would be able to fix his broken mental state. In October of that same year, 1972, Dick wrote his first letter to the FBI. Now, Thomas Dish had actually been a friend to Phil for a long time, since they both published in the same magazines as writers.
Man,
What?
I just hope. I don't know.
What?
I just hope there's. I don't know. It would have been nice if they were just like, hey, Philip, we're going to just give you this little lifeline here. And anytime you feel like doing something a little zany, like, maybe don't even think of it as zany, maybe just, let's think of this as dramatic, like calling the fucking FBI. I want you to just give me a call so maybe we can go over what's happening. Just don't jump straight there. Like, hang on, pump the brakes.
Give him a counselor.
Just like, hey, why don't you just give this guy a ring when you're like, oh, hey, there's a couple buzzwords, FBI, CIA, robots. Just let's just make a list here of things that are going to be stressors for you.
Yeah, I mean,
Mr. Dick.
Most people need a sitter when you're on mushrooms or acid, but he just needed a sitter in general, just to, hey man, how you doing today? I want to go swim in the river. No, we're not doing that today. How about we sit down and eat Totino's, huh, buddy?
Totino's pizza. Yeah.
So here's the thing: Dick was convinced that Thomas Dish's 1968 novel Camp Concentration was using subliminal messaging, though he wasn't sure to what end. He believed the novel was being used as a codebook to help translate messages between clandestine organizations. And he didn't mention any of this to Thomas Dish himself. As a matter of fact, Dish would go on to promote the Philip K. Dick Award after his death. So while he championed his friend's work, we know he eventually found out about this paranoid little episode because in time, Dish would write Phil into his novels as a villain. Before Thomas Dish's death in 2008, he released his final novel, Word of God. In it, Philip K. Dick sits in hell with writer's block, which can only be alleviated by drinking human blood.
Oh.
Dick also makes a deal with the devil to go back in time to kill Thomas Dish's dad.
I mean, probably better than Quaaludes, but whatever.
And also make sure that Hitler wins World War II. So yeah, maybe a chip on his shoulder.
So he fucked them a little bit after that.
He's mad. He's a little angry.
A little salty.
Now, while Dick was attending Excalay, salty Dick. While Dick was attending Excalay, he met another member of the group, a professor from California State University, who asked Dick to come on down and donate his manuscripts to the Special Collections Library, where they hold first drafts of famous writers. Dick eventually gave them so much that they now have a whole section called the Philip K. Dick Science Fiction Collection on their campus. But while he was there touring CSU, Dick befriended a group of up-and-coming science fiction writers who were just getting their start, including K.W. Jeter, the man who would eventually coin the term steampunk. And it was probably
Nerd.
It's some real fucking geeks. These are some dork-ass people. But it was probably his interaction with these kids.
Fucking steampunk.
I know.
I like the steampunk is this thing that's so lame. It seems like currently the thing to do is bring back all the shit that like you and me would get beaten up for being into in middle school. But like steampunk, they're like, no, we're leaving that behind. Like we're not.
Steampunk is neat if done correctly, but rarely is it.
Steampunk, we're just gonna save this for like middle-aged themed orgies for swingers.
Oh man, I'll tell you later. But yes,
sex and gears.
Literally.
Hey, corsets though.
Yes. Well, yeah, but you know what's great about corsets? Yeah, they make your boobs bigger.
Take
or whatever.
off the top hat.
But the corsets also squeeze in all the belly fat. So anyway, so it was probably Dick's interaction with these kids that reminded him why he loved science fiction in the first place. He started to write again, though they were mostly reworkings of previously published work, just expanded into novel length. He also got married again, by the way, last wife this time, Leslie Tessa Busby, on April 18th, 1973, and they had a son named Christopher that same year. The next year, in 1974, Dick published another novel.
Wait, someone married him?
For the 5th time, yeah. This is wife number 5.
At
Mambo
this point,
number 5.
wow, we're calling the FBI and getting married.
That's so interesting, you know?
This is... Yeah. Oh, wait, because like back in the day, like you didn't get moved in until you were married, right?
God, I don't know.
Wasn't it like weird not because that makes more sense why he was like still getting married because if
She
someone had to
shows
live
up
with
and
him
she's
for
like,
a little
wow,
bit,
you live like this. And he's like, yeah, don't mess with the string. They're all color coordinated to different photographs of robots, you know?
I like the decor, my man. It's all Pepe Silva.
Yeah, it's string core, yeah. Well, the next year in 1974, Dick published another novel at age 45 that would later become a classic. Again from Doubleday. This is Flow My Tears, the policeman said. The year is 1988. Don't think of a penis. I saw that look on your face. The year is 1988. The Second Civil War has placed America into a dictatorship, but the resistance movement is still alive in the nation's colleges and universities. Jason Taverner hosts a weekly talk show where he interviews celebrities, as well as a little singing on the side, since he actually got his start as a Sinatra-esque lounge singer. But you see, success isn't that hard for Jason, as the celebrities of the day are genetically modified. They were born to be better. They are the sixth in a line of superhumans who often refer to themselves and others in their classification as sixes. Jason's been having a love affair with another six, a singer named Heather Hart, but he keeps getting harassed by a one-time fling. And when this lady calls him again, she asks him to come over, which he does, but just to tell her once and for all, like, fuck off. But when he arrives, this lady throws some kind of goop on him. It's like a symbiote, and it gets all up inside Jason before he's able to get it all off.
Yeah, you gotta stay quick around an axe, man.
You need to pucker the butt every time.
Stay quick. Be ready for anything. You don't know, man.
You know shit's getting thrown at you. Something. You need to be prepared.
Things could get thrown. Things could get said to you that you didn't even know you didn't want to know. Like, fucking careful. Like,
that's why I wear a raincoat. And
be on your fucking toes.
Wear headphones, yeah. Well, he runs away from her house, and he's calling up Heather, who drives him to a hospital before he knocks out. Quote, opening his eyes, he saw that Heather was crying. Is it that bad? He asked her. Reaching up, he took hold of her hand. He felt the pressure of her love as she squeezed his fingers, and then nothing, except the pain. But nothing else. No Heather, no hospital, no staff men, no light, and no sound. It was an eternal moment, and it absorbed him completely. Upon waking up the next day, Jason finds himself in a derelict hotel with no ID. And although he's famous, he knows that if he were to try and get past one of the many checkpoints on the way home with no identification, he'd be sent to the labor camps. So he goes to the hotel lobby and phones a couple friends, but mysteriously, they all claim not to know him. He tries Heather, and no matter how much secret information he gives her that only he would know, the information is either slightly off, so his information is altogether incorrect, or if he's right, she thinks he's just a, quote, twerp fan. So Jason bribes the desk clerk, saying that as shitty as this place is, it must be used as a hideout for all kinds of criminals. So where can he get a fake ID? With a well-placed bribe, he actually takes him to the other side of town where a woman named Kathy makes fake IDs. Kathy does her job, but as she questions Jason a bit more, she's like, hey, actually, I work for the cops. I do make fake IDs, but I put a little microchip in all of them so they can track dissonance. Hotel desk clerk actually does the same. And he's like, why are you telling me this? But Jason still looks like a celebrity, right? Like, he is genetically modified human made to look and sound like a movie star.
So the goop didn't
fuck with his face.
Didn't make him not hot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Kathy, who's like 19 and he's almost 50, I think, she's like, I want to fuck you and then I'll let you leave. I think Philip K. Dick wrote himself in here a couple different times.
Kathy, who's also 19 and hot.
And a big ass. So Jason has her come with him through a security checkpoint to prove the ID she makes him works and, like, doesn't get him, like, stopped or anything. And when it does, he's like, okay. And he follows her to her apartment. I mean, fair's fair, I guess, right? However, Kathy's police handler, Inspector McNulty, is waiting for them. As it turns out, the desk clerk had already placed a tracker on Jason, so they already know he's a dissident. McNulty was just waiting to see if Kathy would follow through on her end of the deal, which she didn't. So with an I'll deal with you later kind of look, McNulty arrests Jason and takes him down to the station. Now the thing is, walking past all these cops, Jason Taverner thinks, one of these guys ought to recognize me. I do have 30 million viewers after all, but no one does. So when they put Jason in an interrogation room, they run biometric scans to find out who he really is. Yet nothing comes up, which is odd. I mean, they have DNA and fingerprints of everyone who's living on file. So they ask him his name, and he gives it, but they don't find a file for Jason Taverner. Instead, they find the next closest thing, which is for a Jason Tavern. And they ask him, this you? And he's like, Fuck it. Yeah, that's me. Jason Tavern. And they pull out a picture of this old, fat, ugly diesel mechanic, and they're like, so why don't you look like this? And he's like, I got extensive surgery done. Would you want to look like that? And the answer is just, that's good enough, you know?
All right, let him go.
Yeah, they give him a 7-day pass to help him get past the police checkpoints and tell him to get his shit in order in the meantime. And whatever you do, don't leave the city. First thing he does, he runs to Vegas. But he is almost immediately caught and brought back to the station, where this time he's interrogated by Police General Buckman. And at this point, Jason's just about had it with not knowing why no one knows him, so he just kind of breaks down and tells Buckman everything he knows. Doesn't even try to hide it, even if he sounds crazy. And Buckman's like, you say you're a 6? There are no more 6s. They were all wiped out. I would know. I'm a 7.
Look, you're like a 4.5 at best.
We're all showered and everything. A 5, maybe. And Jason's first thought is, there's no such thing as 7s. Is this the future? But no, not just the date, but everything else is the same. Black people are still almost extinct, and the age of consent is still 12.
I'm sorry, can we back that up?
Both parts?
Yeah.
So nothing else has changed. Did I not mention that to you? In the Second Civil War, after America became a dictatorship, they went ahead and wiped out all the black people and lowered the age of consent a little bit. Kind of tells you who may have won. So,
yeah, all right.
So Police General Buckman, he doesn't know what to do. Having no ID is illegal, yes, but there's no way to tell who this guy is if there's no info on him. With no other option, Buckman releases Jason, but tells him that he's going to be tracked again until they can figure out what to do. Outside the station, Jason runs into a woman named Alice, who reveals herself as General Buckman's sister. She invites Jason back to her home and her and her brother share, and she says, quote, I know you very well, Jason Taverner. I've been a fan of yours, of your Tuesday night TV show for years, and I have records of yours. And once I heard you sing live at the Orchid Room at the Hotel St. Francis in San Francisco. Sure enough, on the way to the Buckman mansion, she tells Jason to check the back seat, and there, he finds a few of his own vinyl records. She's telling the truth. When they get to the Buckman residence, Jason asks why she and her brother share a home.
Surely at some point it's gone over that he at least thought about trying to track down the lady through the goo.
Actually, no.
That'd be probably
yeah, exactly.
a good place to start there.
Honestly, I would want to go to my house and be like,
what the fuck did you put in the schmutz?
Who lives here now? Like, where's all my shit, you know?
Like, hey,
I'd be mad.
What are you doing?
I've got a couple of first edition Cormac McCarthy's, man. I want those back. So when they get to the Buckman residence, Jason asks why she and her brother share a home, and she's like, oh yeah, me and my brother fuck. We have a kid too. And there's nothing important.
Oh man, this world sucks.
Yeah, there's nothing important about that. Nothing that drives the plot. Just a fun little thing Phil decided to throw in there along with a 12-year age of consent, you know? So anyway, Jason doesn't understand how Alice is the only person who knows who he is. And she just sits him down and like, once we get nice and high, I'll tell you everything. So they drop some mescaline, but Jason starts getting a bad reaction. Just a little bit of a bad trip. So Alice goes to the bathroom to get him some medicine to counteract it. And he's waiting and waiting, but she doesn't come back. Instead, Jason goes to look for her and finds her skeletonized. Like an old 50s sci-fi movie. Skeleton.
Oh god, it's a skeleton. It's so scary.
It's spooky. The scariest thing, there's a skeleton inside you right now.
I resisted saying that. You ruined it.
Well, he freaks off and he runs off with his vinyl record, still high as a kite. But a security guard sees him running out, and upon checking the inside, finds Alice's corpse, or skeleton, I guess, and he calls the police to report him. Now, Jason hitches a ride with a young woman who brings him to a cafe. She's not sure why, probably because he's still hot. He doesn't know what to do.
Okay, wait.
What?
If he goes in the bathroom and she's a skeleton, how does he know that that's her skeleton?
Well, who else's skeleton will it be?
Some fucking random jack-offs. But my first thoughts, if I found a skeleton in someone's home, wouldn't be like, oh my god, so much time has passed. How did they turn into a skeleton? It'd be like, oh shit, this person has a skeleton in here. That doesn't make any fucking sense.
This poor guy just walks through, like, John Wayne Gacy's crawl space, like, oh my god, somebody planted all these children in here. That's not how you grow boys. Just, yeah, Jason, that's crazy.
Oh my god. What happened to all these people?
Oh my god, she turned into a skeleton. Yeah.
She's just like hiding behind a corner, like, fuck, I forgot to put that shit away. Usually I just dose people on mescaline and then fucking let them turn into skeletons in my bathtub. Would have been my fucking thought, like.
Yeah, really. My first thought probably would have been like, holy shit, like there's probably a secret thing here. She's probably locking the bedroom door right now. Like I'm in danger.
I would never be able to pick out someone's identity from a skeleton. Ever. What the fuck? Like,
you don't check out a girl's bone structure, you know? Oh, I know those rib bones anywhere. So basically he's with some random chick that he just ran away with. They go to a cafe, and he doesn't know what to do. And honestly, coming down off the mescaline, he just tells her everything. And she doesn't really get it, but she figures some music from the jukebox might do him some good. Well, as it turns out, one of Jason's hit singles called Nowhere Nothing Fuck Up is on it. So she plays the song, and soon, a little boy comes over with a pen and paper like, hey, mister, you're Jason Taverner, right? Can I have your autograph? And slowly, more people in the cafe start to notice that's Jason Taverner sitting right there. How do you think Nowhere Nothing Fuck Up goes? Sing me a song.
I'm good, man.
You were once a professional singer.
We don't mention that.
Oh, nowhere, nothing fuck.
Yeah, something like that. Some real cafe like.
Probably.
You know,
yeah,
like
Sinatra-esque.
This is yeah. This is like a Philip K. Dick thing, so it's probably raining. They're in like a silver trailer somewhere, type diner, right? Mm-hmm. That's what I'm picturing.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
some noir horse shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, an autopsy finds that Alice's death was caused by an experimental drug called KR3. This drug warps reality, so you can sort of jump dimensions. Alice's use of the drug once put her in a timeline where a man named Jason Taverner existed. And when she was in that dimension, she became a fan of his.
That kid must have been getting high as fuck.
But after her come down, that was it. She's in her universe, and Jason's still in his. However, as the theory goes, the more times she's high on KR3 and Jason is on her mind, the bigger the chances that the drug can meld their realities, causing him to instantly transport to her universe. That's why his information with Heather Hart was slightly skewed. The things he knows are just a little different than they are here.
Okay, wait. Okay, does he go into how this works at all?
No.
Okay, well then this
just
is
like with Ubik.
No. Okay, this is no longer sci-fi. This is fantasy. Put it in the different section.
Okay. You know what? This is
I understand
that. Yeah.
Nope. This is no longer Star Trek. We are in
it was
Wheel of Time
science fiction.
territory now.
Okay. No. Star Trek was bullshit too, though. It's not real science either.
I mean, ish. They at least try to bullshit you into believing why things
Gene
work.
Roddenberry did try.
Except for like the fucking, microwaves what make food appear out of nowhere.
I never watched it.
Oh, that's fair.
Fucking hated anything that wasn't a cartoon.
You don't have the particular Star Trek specific autism strain.
Every time I see somebody wearing a red shirt, I don't freak out and go, "Oh, you better watch out" or some shit, you know.
I mean, no, I don't do that shit. No, those are the motherfuckers that also like Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And they can burn in hell.
You're on the same rung as the furries and steampunk bastards.
I want you to know that you can have just like a much better life than me. Have your shit together. Just have everything going on for you. And
but as long as you're
I'll respect you. I will respect you. We can get along fine. And then as soon as I see that dumbass little fucking telephone booth, I'm just like, oh, you're one of those.
Yeah.
And you're lower.
I do form a lot of first impressions on if you have a TARDIS thing around.
Fuck off.
As soon as I see it, I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah. Well, at least I know you're probably very kind. You know, you're nice. That's good. Well, when Alice died, the theory goes Jason slowly started shifting back into his own reality, as it was her connection with him that kept him from returning. And that's actually just kind of how the book ends. If I remember correctly, the goop that his one night stand threw at him in the beginning was a red herring. Had nothing to do with any of it.
Oh, it was a one night stand?
Maybe.
Oh, I thought it was like an X. I just planted that there in my head for some reason.
Oh,
I just heard violence and
like Ubik. Oh, you heard violence coming from a woman, and you're like, oh, we must have dated.
Okay,
what was
we
her
might
name?
need to edit that. I don't know if that's okay.
That's fine, because trust me, that's not singling a single person out. That is a lot of people.
No, dude. Okay, we've been over this before. When we do this, I sound like the dude.
Yeah,
I sound like the dude.
If it smells like shit everywhere you go, then you better check the bottom of your shoe.
You know what I fucking
understand.
mean?
No. I would like to let everyone here know.
Don't.
Caleb has faults. He is one of the faultiest people I know. Yeah, but if I can start a rumor where
I just drove them completely. Look, man, the personality doesn't mesh well with good people. Like, I think you're a decent person. I'm pretty sure you were mad at me this morning. Yeah. I just do that. Right?
Some people can deal with it easier than others. That's
okay,
all it is.
like...
That's all it is. Now, the title itself, Flow My Tears, the policeman said, is a reference to a song called Flow My Tears by Renaissance composer John Dowland. If you'll remember back to our last episode, the first time Philip K. Dick puts himself in one of his stories was in a tale he'd written 10 years prior called Orpheus with Clay Feet, where Jack Dowland was the name of the author that the time traveler tries to inspire to write his favorite book. So anyway, at one random point in the novel, Police General Buckman quotes the song for no discernible reason at all, so that's why the book is called Flow My Tears, the policeman said. It was just an excuse to call the book something cool, in my opinion.
Man.
It probably, to some people, has a deeper meaning, but I don't go further.
It sounds like
it's
AI
all guesswork.
generated.
It's all guesswork when you say, oh, there's a deeper meaning to Philip K. Dick book. Yeah, probably, and you'll never figure it out.
Probably, yeah, because you know how, like, when you talk to somebody that's a little out of it up there, and then you can't really make any response to what they're saying because it's not following, like, actual logic at all.
Well, yeah, the amount of times I've been scared on the couch when somebody's saying something really weird, and I'm just like, yeah, man, I think I know what you mean, like this, and I'll try to kind of get on their side, and then I just see them look over like, that's not what I meant at all, and I'm just like, oh, cool, I'm more scared, because now I'm one of them, maybe, or something, I don't know. I just want to have a calm down moment so that I can drive home. Like,
God damn,
I'm
dude.
scared. And it's hard to be sure, but
anyway,
I think...
yeah, the goo.
The goop is nothing.
The goop is nothing.
The goop is nothing, I'm pretty sure.
Goop is nothing. The goop is not a dimensional, traveling, combining.
She just tried to fuck him up as a symbiote, I guess. I don't know.
All right. He's like, no, I tried to throw acid on you.
It expired.
No, not like drug acid, like acid.
Oh boy. Like, it's hard to be sure, but I think this is the first book of Philip K. Dick's that was being largely reviewed by major newspapers, not just in science fiction magazines. It took him like 20 years, but he did it. He could now be seen as a novelist. But while the sci-fi community fucking loved Flow My Tears, even nominated it for the Hugo Award for Best Novel, the laymen just couldn't understand what the fuck they were reading, so the reviews were lackluster at best. Now, this next incident in Dick's life came before the release of Flow My Tears, the policeman said. He had already written the story and put it forward for publication. But here is where Philip K. Dick will lose what can be seen as the rest of his sanity. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know.
Okay.
I tried to make this as linear as I could. On March 20th, 1974, Philip K. Dick was waiting at his home for a delivery of opioid medication. He had just had a recent extraction for an impacted wisdom tooth. When he heard a knock at the door, he opened it to find his medication being delivered by a beautiful young woman wearing a golden necklace which shined bright in the sun and enveloped Phil in a beam of pink light. He asked what symbol that was on her necklace, and she said, quote, "This is a sign used by the early Christians." It was the Jesus fish, and ichthys is what it's called.
For a second, there's a... Philip, that is a cross.
It's a T.
What is it? What is it?
It's a T for tolerance.
What's the T stand for, young lady?
He said, quote, "In that instant, as I stared at the gleaming fish sign and heard her words,
T for time to go fucking insane.
I suddenly experienced what I later learned is called anamnesis, a Greek word meaning literally loss of forgetfulness. I remembered who I was and where I was. In an instant, in the twinkling of an eye, it all came back to me. And not only could I remember it, but I could see it. The girl was a secret Christian, and so was I. We lived in fear of detection by the Romans. We had to communicate with cryptic signs. She had just told me all this, and it was true. For a short time, as hard as this is to believe or explain, I saw fading into view the black prison-like contours of hateful Rome. But, of much more importance, I remembered Jesus, who had just recently been with us and had gone temporarily away and would very soon return.
Philip, I'm so proud of you for calling me right now.
Before you write
this
any
is just
of this
such
down,
a good step.
I just want you to come back to the facility.
Okay, is there anything else you need to tell me about the fish lady?
My emotion was one of joy. We were secretly preparing to welcome him back. It would not be long, and the Romans did not know. They thought he was dead, forever dead. That was our great secret, our joyous knowledge. Despite all appearances, Christ was going to return, and our delight and anticipation were boundless.
Is he going to go all Jeebusy?
A little bit.
All right.
But not like hardcore Christian. He's more like in the way that a crazy guy would. You know?
he's just latching onto that concept. He's just going wild.
Yeah. Well, as the girl bounced away...
No, he's writing his own Bible.
Dick, he kind of does. Dick believed...
I don't see anywhere else for this to go. I don't.
Dick believed that
Probably better than the fucking Silmarillion anyway.
Dick believed that the pink beam of light that enshrined him from the glint of her necklace was actually a sentient beam of light, one that had bestowed upon him both intelligence and clairvoyance. Now, this is a conclusion he came to later. He says initially he didn't think anything of this pink beam of light at all, but suddenly he begins receiving messages from the light, which he dubs Valis, which stands for Vast Active Living Intelligence System. From Philip K. Dick's journal that day, March 20th, 1974. It seized me entirely, lifting me from the limitations of space-time matrix. It mastered me as, at the same time, I knew that the world around me was cardboard, a fake. Through its power of perception, I saw what really existed, and through its power of no-thought decision...
Went into the bathroom, looked in the mirror, and peeled my face off.
was screaming at the bus station, and they didn't understand.
Ah!
I acted to free myself. It took on in battle as a champion of all human spirits in thrall, every evil, every iron imprisoning thing. So I'll point out here that while he said he didn't initially think anything of it, he's writing about Valis that same day in his journal, so I don't think he gave it much room for thought. But then Valis had a message for him. His son Christopher, less than a year old at this point, was life-threateningly sick. And Dick doesn't know what to think of it. He didn't seem sick. In fact, the kid was completely fine. But just to test the waters, just to see if he was really crazy, Philip K. Dick took his infant son to the doctor for a checkup where they found nothing. But the message comes back, tells Dick they need to check again, and they keep telling him there's nothing wrong, but he's insistent.
Well, I mean, kid's dying, so.
Well, I mean, but he seemed fine. And they just keep going like, this is a toddler. You know, that's a baby.
Toddler.
That's a baby. You know,
just walking all weird and slurring his words and shit. Doctor, something's wrong with this kid. Like,
my child is drunk.
He shit his pants every day. Every day last week.
So do I, but you know, it's what it is. Well, lo and behold, they find an undiagnosed hernia that would have taken his son's life had it waited any longer. And I do mean that literally. His son had to undergo surgery immediately. Now, this story has been around as long as the mythos of Philip K. Dick himself, but his wife Tessa backs up the whole account, so take that as you will. That's kind of all the evidence we have on it. Dick would later call this turning point in his life 2-3-74, shorthand for February to March of 1974, as this is the point in his life where everything changed for him. And you may have noticed that I said before that this whole event with Valis happened on March 20th, but then he goes back and calls the event February to March of 1974. He seemed to jump around quite a bit about when this whole thing happened. But I mean, you know, go figure, he doesn't seem super reliable on things.
I mean, I feel like getting that kind of affirmation for your, you know, weird thoughts, you're not going to recover from that.
Well, right. And that's the thing, though. I don't everyone passes it off like truth. Like, yeah, this thing with his son really did happen, and honestly, maybe it did. But we really don't have anyone say so besides himself and his wife. But
Right.
I don't know. Well,
Like,
either way,
she's living with Philip K. Dick. She's probably something's going on.
they did
with her as well.
They did
so.
divorce before he died, so it almost seems like she doesn't have a reason to be like, yeah, everything he says is completely true. But like, I don't know.
I mean, it's probably just. Yeah, he was probably just flipping out and taking his kid to the doctor over and over, and then they happen to have an issue there, but correlation is not causation. It doesn't mean
exactly.
That, like,
well, of course, but I mean, I will say also, jumping a little bit ahead here, she has profited a lot from him dying and her telling all these unknown stories and shit with her own books. Anyway.
Whatever, man.
Well, either way. Phil
The
says,
takeaway is that the kid did not die.
Yeah, the kid did not
so
die.
That's cool.
Kid is still alive, actually.
Like,
Phil says he one day looks out over the California landscape and sees almost a projection of ancient Rome over the top of it. As time went on, he began to see this overlay everywhere he went. He believed that he was living two different timelines simultaneously. In our reality, he was Philip Kindred Dick, but in another, he lived in ancient Rome as some guy named Thomas.
Philip Castris Dickus.
Thomas Castris. Cast iron Dickus. Bring me biggest Dickus. He also said that he experienced something called xenoglossia. You know those stories of people like hitting their head or something and then they're able to speak French all of a sudden? You know?
No, it's not that you can speak a language. It's that you're talking in an accent from a place that you're not from.
Okay, so here's the thing. It's complete bullshit. It turns out.
Damn it, the world just got darker for me.
Well, I actually didn't know too much about xenoglossia before this, so I was on the fence about it, but this made me look it up, and yeah, it's not real. Like, there's no documented thing where that has been proven.
I will continue to believe that an old British woman was bonked on the head and then woke up with a thick, very, very offensive Asian accent.
Do you need me? Whoa, Grandma.
Whoa, Grandma, what the fuck?
No,
That's not funny.
It's not okay. Well, either way, Dick claimed he had that. He had xenoglossia. Apparently, he'd absent-mindedly... What? Don't laugh at the man. Apparently...
I'm laughing because you did the accent. Like, okay, in context, I guess that's all right, man, but like...
Well, apparently he'd absent-mindedly babble sometimes, and Tessa just happened to look up if it was a language for some reason. Well, what do you know? Turns out Dick was speaking Greek. But not just any Greek, it was an ancient dialect called Koine.
Oh, is that why it didn't sound like fucking Greek at all or make any sense?
Yeah, coincidentally, though, this is the same dialect, as they would soon discover, and not totally look up beforehand, that the New Testament was written in. Huh? Dick's run-in with Christian alien beams of light wasn't the first time he claimed xenoglossia, though, by the way. He said he could speak Latin if he took enough acid.
Jordan, hit me on the head really fucking hard.
I'd love to. I would want nothing more. How'd you learn 10 languages? Mild retardation. They just kept fucking hitting me. And while I don't think Dick was necessarily making this stuff up, I do believe he was mentally unwell. I do think Tessa was feeding into it quite a bit to corroborate his stories. The only person who can confirm Dick was speaking Greek is Tessa. The only person who can confirm that story about Christopher is Tessa. But anyway, that same year as the Vallis event in 1974, Phil once again wrote to the FBI. Just can't stop him.
Can't stop. Won't stop.
This time,
Philip, you said you'd call. You said you'd call, and you were doing so good.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. That's Koine. That's Greek.
And then you saw a necklace with a fish on a girl, and I just don't understand why you've reverted.
Out.
Okay, this is really frustrating.
We have done so much progression.
Philip.
So this time he was letting them know that several people were working as foreign agents affiliated with the Warsaw Pact, which was what allowed there to be Soviet states in the Eastern Bloc of Europe. He also said that Stanislaw Lem, author of the 1961 sci-fi classic Solaris, was using a fake name to try and gain public favor towards the Communist Party. I feel like he's just going after people who he feels might be better than him.
But probably not realizing it.
Maybe, honestly, like
Just
he's
manifesting as this like insane shit.
Well, yeah, you might have a little bit of jealousy, and it starts to manifest as time goes on. Like, holy shit, I think he has it out for me. Well, now, granted, I do think so. Again, I do think Dick was nuts. But there may have been an ulterior reason as to why he was trying to get Stanislaw Lem in trouble with the FBI. You see, Lem was actually the translator for the Polish version of Ubik, which had released just a couple years earlier in 1972.
I think she wants out.
Yeah, I know.
Pause real quick. We got pause because dog wants
no.
out.
All right, so Stanislaw Lem, he was the translator for the Polish version of Ubik, and according to Dick himself, he says he didn't get paid as much as he should have when he crunched the numbers when Ubik was released in Poland. Like, the sales in Poland were booming, but his check was much too small to make sense. Yeah, he didn't blame this on exchange rates or the fact that there's more than just the publisher and the writer taking a cut when you sell a book in a foreign nation.
Here we go.
You know, you've got translator fees, marketing fees. No, he thought Stanislaw Lem's translation wasn't accurate, that he changed his work, which doesn't make sense to me. You think the book sales were doing great, but you also weren't getting your cut because the story was different? Yet, unlike Thomas Dish, the subject of Dick's first letter to the FBI, who later made him a character and
ridiculous.
put him in hell, Lem heard about these accusations, but he knew Dick was crazy at this point, so he just went, haha, anyway, and then just kept being a fan of his work. You know, he loved his stuff.
He's like, oh yeah, I heard you were very difficult to work with.
Yeah, as he probably found out when he's just like, and you know, I actually speak Polish myself. Oh, really? I didn't know about that. That's cool. Yeah, I bonked my head and
Tessa, get the bat.
Bibbidi bobbidi. Oh yeah. Oh hey to you too, Dick. Wow, that's wow, that's impressive.
Skibbity poppity.
Skibopski. And by the way, as far as Dick's political leanings go, he had attended communist meetings in his youth, but of course, as he got crazier, he became a libertarian. He would actually...
Oh, fuck yeah.
He would actually...
libertarian sci-fi uncle. The vibe. Hell yeah.
I know exactly how much chest hair he
has. I know
has.
this guy.
He would actually refer to himself as a, quote, religious anarchist. I think he was the only one. Don't know what it means.
I mean, I don't
guess.
I don't want to unpack this.
He even joined protests against the Vietnam War and made a pledge to never pay his taxes, which is why his fucking car got repossessed. Now, even though Dick had finished Flow My Tears long before he had his episode with Valis, he retroactively believed that he had been taken over by the prophet Elijah while writing a section of the book, as one scene had become a retelling of the book of Acts. But which scene this is, I couldn't tell you, and neither can Dick, because he also points out that he's never read the Bible. So here's the thing. These episodes Dick was having, they would only last a couple months, and then one day they just left. He was still out there, mind you, but the projections of Rome, the messages from Valis, those all just stopped. But in his last 10 years, Philip K. Dick would introduce a series of novels that were semi-autobiographical and directly influenced by his momentary lapse in sanity. For instance, in 1976, Dick wrote a book...
I don't feel like it was a momentary lapse. I feel like we're just like on a...
It was a heavier lapse than, I guess, you know, it's
Yeah,
like
that's what I
surf
mean.
goes in, surf goes out kind of thing, but it was like, this was a tsunami.
I feel like it's more just we're on a consistent level in this graph here, and then, oh, there's a spike.
Yeah, exactly.
But then when that's done, we're
But
definitely
is that
not back to...
I don't think that's normal either, though. It is odd. I will say, like, there are people out there who are, like, huge ufologists type things that are like, I think you really had something here. And it's like, well, of course you do. It's interesting, but...
Really?
probably, yeah.
You? Wow. Great. I can't wait for you to show me sources that are obviously bullshit.
So in 1976, Dick wrote a book called Valis System A, which wouldn't even be released until after his death. He had gone to the publishing house Bantam to try and get it printed, but it was so fucking hard to read that they just couldn't. It was too fucking insane. Instead, they asked for several...
That's because you titled it Phallus System Gay. Damn, change the title and the words, and that's why you don't like it.
I didn't know that we needed a series of, like, you know, porn parodies of Philip K. Dick. But there it is. It starts with Phallus System Gay. So instead,
Hell yeah, bro.
Instead, Bantam asked for several changes, and when Dick felt the experience was no longer his own, he decided to can the novel and rework it into something else entirely. Now, as we know, anybody with these issues,
did you bother to do any like
Any
homework
Zoid.
onto? No. Did you bother to do any homework into like these issues or symptoms or what
I heard about
what
them
the
all.
modern
Yes.
Terms for this shit are?
Did I
like?
did I do
Please.
that part? No, not exactly.
God damn
But
it.
no, I had to listen to these stories growing up from my dad, who lived with his mother, who
Oh, okay, your dad. Cool.
yeah, no, all my sources, my dad. No, my my grandmother was heavily schizophrenic, and so he went through all this shit. But anyway, anyway. So anyone like my grandmother, which Philip K. Dick probably was, they always seem to gravitate towards religion. And for him, what with the beam of light coming from the ichthys, that was a given. Sometime in 1968, he started a story called Deus Irae, which in Latin means God of Wrath. It was an adaptation of a story he'd written in 1953 called The Great Sea, but one that he'd largely expanded on. It was about the near future of 1982, where the resulting nuclear devastation has led to a mutant human race who worship the CEOs of the munitions companies that ensured their destruction. The people are devoted to the idea of God's wrath rather than God's love. Kind of neat.
It sounds cool.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
Papa Musk, rain down on me your fire and flames. Ultimately, Dick shelved Deus Irae because he felt he didn't know enough about Christianity to openly mock it.
Like, no, this is too cool.
Yeah, well, he was like, I want it to have Christian themes. I don't want to read the Bible, so I can't, And originally,
But the fish shined light on you, man. But
that was
I don't want
Rome.
to fucking read. Come on, man. Like,
originally, he'd asked fellow sci-fi writer Ted White to collaborate on it so he could get it finished, but he never responded. Instead, it was a friend of Ted's, a man named Roger Zelazny, who found it on Ted's table like, "What's this?" And Ted was like, it's some shit I'll never work on. But Zelazny read the manuscript, loved it.
Fucking Philip.
Well, yeah,
This is metal as shit.
Yeah, well, he got in contact with Dick about it. He's like, "Hey, Ted thinks it fucking sucks, but I don't. You want to do something about it?" And they started a collaboration.
It's not a good critique of Christianity. Yeah, that's not why I like the mutants and shit, dude. Like, we can just have a good time.
It's okay. Like,
Philip,
it's
goddamn,
fine.
dude. Like,
well, so they started a collaboration that would take the next 7 years to write. Not because they put their heart and souls into it, but because they would trade off the script to write alternating chapters, and they both just constantly forgot about it. In fact, they said that once Doubleday Publishing messaged Phil in the spring of 75 about it, they had it done in under a year. Apparently, they'd called him like, "Hey man, it's been 7 fucking years. Give us the book you owe us, or pay back the advance we gave you." Which I'm sure he was like, "Oh fuck, I already got paid." So he's like, "Oh no."
oh god. Well, that was like 7 years ago, man. Come on,
Yeah, just fucking pick it up.
just let it go. Like, this is forever ago.
Yeah,
man.
it was fine. Accounting for inflation, I barely was paid anything. Also, when Dick and Zelazny were sending in their individual parts of the story to Doubleday, Zelazny had photocopied what he'd written and sent it in, and they were like, "No, your contract says it has to be the original pages." Which I get. I mean, anyone can say they hold the copyright to a story because they've got some printed pages. So they needed the original ones with the handwritten notes and everything. But the reason Zelazny hadn't done that in the first place was because they were covered in cat piss. But since they were like raising such a stink about it, he was like, "All right, man, here you go." No better way to say, "Oh, I'm a sci-fi writer. Are you true sci-fi? My papers are covered in cat pee. Everything is covered in cat piss."
Where's the fucking cat? No, well, the gallon's in the fridge.
Oh, fuck. My corset's in the closet. Now, as Philip K. Dick was working on Deus Irae, he decided to publish a book he'd written back in 1973, before the crazy had really kicked in. Partly based on his experiences in the house he lived in when Nancy divorced him and he invited a bunch of drug addicts in to live with him, and partly based on his own experiences with paranoia In 1977, Dick released one of his greatest works, A Scanner Darkly. The year is 1994.
Oh, I legitimately did not know that was fucking...
Did you ever watch the movie?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
It's fucking weird.
Yeah, well...
Totally makes sense that it's fucking Philip K. Dick now.
Yeah. The year
now,
is...
like a decade later after watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, that checks out. Like,
Woody Harrelson movie? That makes sense. Oh yeah, Keanu Reeves. I guess most people would call it Keanu Reeves movie, but I see it as a Woody Harrelson movie because he's like a side character. I like Woody Harrelson. He's an asshole, but he's a good actor.
it's the teeth.
Yeah. The year is 1994.
You just make being a fucking piece of shit so goofy with them teeth.
Yeah. It's like he's got golem teeth.
It's so fucking wild. He's all like cowboy looking, and he opens his mouth, and it's just SpongeBob.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's like close up Ren and Stimpy mouth. You know what I mean?
He does.
Like with the watercolors and shit.
The whole vibe of the man is close up Ren and Stimpy. Like when the firefighter they're like sleeping with like wakes up in the middle of the night in an adult party cartoon. You know, that's like a famous gif now. Like,
yep. Well, the story is of Bob Arctor, an undercover agent working for the police department to find and arrest dealers of a popular drug called Substance D. The police of this future all wear...
Substance D's nuts.
Stop it. The police of this future all wear what's called a scramble suit, a full head-to-toe costume that projects an ever-changing look on whoever wears it. You ever see those time lapses of people's portraits that AI make, where they like slowly turn into other people and objects? You know, it's like that. The purpose of the scramble suit is that you can't get a good look at the wearer. They actually just look like a blur in your periphery. All undercover agents wear one.
They look like they're being censored.
Kind of, yeah. Except it's just an ever-changing face.
Hey, man, this guy says he's not a cop, okay?
I think he's just Japanese and fully naked. All undercover agents wear one, even in the office, to truly be undercover. The suit scrambles both their looks and their voice, and they go by an assumed name. Bob Arctor, for instance, goes by Fred. But Bob is in a predicament, as he is tasked with investigating himself and the den of drug users he lives with, because they have no idea they're the same person. But there's this great part where Bob has to get his friends to leave the house at just the right time so a surveillance team can come in and swap out some microphones or something. And when they get back, Bob's most paranoid friend is like, "Someone was here, man. I fucking know it, and I'll prove it to you." And it turns out the guy had a recording device himself set up to catch anyone that walks through the door. And the whole time, Bob's sweating like, "Oh shit, I'm fucking done for." But it turns out there's nothing on it. And he's thinking, okay, good. They found the device and they scrubbed it on their way out. But the friend is going fucking nuts over it like, "I know I plugged it in. Bob's an agent." But eventually they just convince him that he got high and forgot to plug it in. And really a lot of the book is just conversation Philip K. Dick has had with the people he lived with. But the biggest issue is that Bob's use of Substance D while undercover has put a wall between the left and right portions of his brain. So while he remains a drug user at his own house, when he comes into the office, he can't identify himself as the man he's watching through the surveillance cameras. And soon, Bob begins making plots against himself. A part of him wants to live his life as a continued abuser of Substance D so he can get closer to his main dealer, Donna, and the other part of him wants to take them all down. However, as his brain begins to fry by the end of the book, Donna reveals that she herself is an undercover agent, and she's going to use Bob to get the information she needs. She has slowly made Bob an addict, and is now withholding the drugs he needs, so he'll go into terrible withdrawals. With Bob really playing the part of a junkie, Donna drops him off at a new age rehab center called New Path. You see, New Path is making a lot of money, but they're also being funded by someone or something, and it's Donna's task to find out who or what it is. Now, as it turns out, New Path breaks down your character much like Calais, the place Dick himself went to, until Bob is just a shell of a person wandering the halls. Turns out this is their goal all along. Any junkies New Path can turn into a non-verbal workhorse like Bob, they transfer out of town to work in the fields. And there, he finds himself farming a special blue flower that is the base ingredient of Substance D. So the rehab facilities are the ones supplying the drugs to stay in power and get a bunch of money. Apparently, the memories Philip K. Dick got from writing A Scanner Darkly about the people he knew and what he went through became very difficult for him. Tessa, who would leave him shortly after the book's release, said that in the 2 weeks it took him to write the novel, she would go to bed while he was writing and then wake up the next morning just to find him absolutely sobbing. As a matter of fact, the end
Philip, you think about that mutant book anymore? Maybe. I'm just trying to get some
You don't need to make it so fucking real, man.
sleep here. You could just take this in a Spielberg direction or something. Go shock and awe,
Yeah.
comic
You
stuff.
probably,
Whoa.
honestly, everything made after Philip K. Dick stuff is usually better, you know, by a little bit. As a matter of fact, the end of the book has a dedication to the friends he made in the drug scene, but who he ultimately watched get hurt or die. Quote, "This has been a novel about some people who were punished entirely too much for what they did. They wanted to have a good time, but they were like children playing in the street. They could see one after another of them being killed, run over, maimed, destroyed, but they continued to play anyhow. We really all were very happy for a while, sitting around not toiling, but just bullshitting and playing. But it was for such a terrible brief time, and when the punishment was beyond belief. Even when we could see it, we could not believe it. For a while, I myself was one of these children playing in the street. I was, like the rest of them, trying to play instead of being grown up, and I was punished. I am on the list below, which is a list of those to whom this novel is dedicated and what became of each." He goes on to say things like, "There is no moral in this novel. It is not bourgeois. It does not say they were wrong to play when they should have toiled. It just says what the consequences were. And if there was any sin, it was that these people wanted to keep on having a good time forever, and were punished for that. But, as I say, I feel that, if so, the punishment was far too great, and I prefer to think of it only in a Greek or morally neutral way, as mere science, as deterministic impartial cause and effect. I love them all. Here is the list to whom I dedicate my love." And then he gives a list like, to Gayleen, deceased, to Ray, deceased, to Francie, permanent psychosis, to Kathy, permanent brain damage, to Jim, deceased, to Val, massive permanent brain damage, to Nancy, permanent psychosis. And even at the end of it, he can't be bothered to talk about each case, so he just concludes it as, and so forth. But as he mentions, he does, in this list of 15 people, place himself in there as well. To Phil, permanent pancreatic damage. After their divorce, Tessa would state in multiple interviews that she helped write A Scanner Darkly herself. She said she considered herself the silent co-author. And usually when someone says this, they typically have much less of a hand in it than what they claim. What?
Is that what a ghostwriter is?
No, ghostwriter is like Trump's Art of the Deal. He didn't put pen to paper for a single thing in that. He had a full-on ghostwriter that wrote the book for him, and then they said that Trump wrote that book.
So a ghostwriter is somebody who actually writes a book and then
under someone else's name.
And then you're just an ideas man.
Usually you don't even have the ideas. Tom Clancy is actually a great... you know Tom Clancy?
Yeah.
Splinter Cell and all that other shit.
Yes.
He didn't fucking come up with any other...
Yes, I owned an Xbox 360.
Were you a Chaos Theory kind of guy? Because I was.
No, I never got through that shit. How the fuck?
You can't get through any of them. They were way too complex for the time period. Like,
Dude.
They had great ideas, but that shit was like... Everyone was thinking on Metal Gear Solid type of thing where they're like, oh, you can see their footprints. And it was like, no, you had to actually wear thermal goggles to look at a keyboard to understand what the passcode was. Who would have known to do that? That's actual secret agent shit.
I want to go play them now.
You won't be good. We weren't good back then. I don't think we're going to be better. It's just like thinking, oh, I'll boot up GoldenEye. I bet I'm good at it now that it's been 20 years. You're not.
Well, no, that's different. That's because GoldenEye's control scheme was fucking
it's ass.
terrible.
You're running through like fucking Lightning McQueen. You were so fast. It is ridiculous. Lightning McQueen with a gun. Cars 4. So usually when someone says that they have a hand in it, they actually have like much less than what they usually claim, but Dick fully supported her views. He said that she, quote, participated to a great extent in writing the outline and novel, and I owe her 1/2 of all income derived from it. I'm not sure that he actually gave her any royalties, but he said she deserved it, at least. You know, that's nice.
Kind of wild. It's like wife and writer,
Yeah.
and still no money.
No.
No,
Well, the
surely
money's good.
Surely the money went there. Surely.
Surely, for sure. Well, writing the book was an issue for Dick in other ways, though. While he had penned the initial story in just 2 weeks, he spent the next 3 years adapting it to sci-fi. Although he never made the hard jump out of sci-fi before, he said his greatest works, books like The Man in the High Castle and Flow My Tears, the Policeman Said, were failures on his part because they weren't sci-fi enough. So to combat this, he put an emphasis on high-tech equipment like the scramble suit, but since the book was only turned into sci-fi in its later stages, it's why everyone still talks like a hippie straight out in 1970. As Dick's novels became more mainstream, first with Flow My Tears and then with this, it meant that he also took on more criticism as well. Although A Scanner Darkly was once again hailed by the science fiction community and even landed him a large fan base in Europe, the book was panned heavily by critics in the States, even from fellow sci-fi writers, which I have to say is a bit unfair. I'm sure they had their reasons, but the thing about Dick's novels and why we didn't go too in-depth with Man in the High Castle and Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep is because a lot of Dick's work is about the world they take place in and less about the characters themselves. The real story to Man in the High Castle takes place in the background. Deckard's role in Electric Sheep is small. A lot of Philip K. Dick stories are more about these alternate timelines than anything else. So yes, to some people who pick up one of Phil's stories for the first time, you might be a little underwhelmed. I was. I feel like you might have been too.
I'm sorry, what's going on?
Yeah, you were probably a little underwhelmed going into, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep.
No, I'm generally overwhelmed by large amounts of text.
Okay, fair enough. Yep, I've seen you read the newspaper upside down before trying to pass things off. Yeah. 2 eye holes cut in the center page. Just watching.
Caleb, your phone is upside down. You should understand the direction that it sits in. This isn't even a reading issue.
You're just being goofball. But he has such a huge catalog that I'm sure you'll find something you like of his eventually. And I feel that when it comes to A Scanner Darkly, the true literary critics read one of these world-building books and didn't expect it, while the people who understood his work just fine in the sci-fi community had seen him do better. But come on, it is a great fucking book. But finally, in 1978, Dick's reworking of Valis System A was complete, around the same time as his mother Dorothy's death at age 78. This time he simply called the book Valis, yet it wouldn't be published until 1981. Still, this, along with the sequel called The Divine Invasion, would be the last books published before his death. So let's start with Valis. The story follows a man by the name of Horse Lover Fat. We're just going to move past it. I don't think anyone in the story brings up his weird fucking name. I can't remember.
Nothing appropriate pops into the head when that's said.
What's wrong with Horse Lover Fat?
Jesus Christ. All right, guys, we were up all night coming up with the most unsettling thing to name a character, and I think we struck gold here.
It was almost Baby Blender Thompson, but I think we found something better.
Horse Lover Fat.
So anyway, the story is about Horse Lover Fat getting hit by a beam of pink light from a satellite called Valis. He begins experiencing ancient Rome on a daily basis, and he and his friends try to figure out its meaning. And this is one of the stories I won't go over because it is so fucking hard to talk about. Like, remember, this is a book based on Dick's own journals, but also partially fictionalized. So at one point in the book, Horse Lover is in a car with his friends, and he's like, hey, you guys know how you say horse lover in Greek? Philip, you know how you say fat in German? Dick, guys, I think I'm schizophrenic and I wrote The Man in the High Castle. Like, the book just suddenly breaks the fourth wall out of fucking nowhere. And his friends, by the way, practically the same guys Bob Arctor lives with in A Scanner Darkly. All of them are just pretentious and annoying. And it's great because Phil writes the parts of these guys perfectly. Like, Horse Lover's friend Kevin is based on K.W. Jeter, whose name really is Kevin. And he keeps talking about how Valis can't be God because God doesn't exist. And Horse Lover's like, how do you know God doesn't exist? And he's like, because I loved my cat and he got hit by a car, and no way God would do something so cruel. And he's like, well, maybe God hates your fucking cat. You ever think about that? Just, I don't know. You read the main character is like, yeah, this is Philip K. Dick. He's kind of an asshole.
Wait, so Dick is fat?
Dick is fat. Yep.
I'm sorry,
we actually went over this.
I completely stopped.
No,
there.
we actually went over this in Herman Melville as to why it's Moby Dick, because probably we started calling whales dicks because of it means fat. Probably. I don't know.
Right. Okay. Well,
yeah, so
moving on.
Anyway, Dick also gives his theories onto how he thinks Valis works, which I do find interesting. He doesn't say, this is how it works, because that's what a crazy person would do. Instead, he just has theories on it. So he says he thinks Valis is just one part of a bigger artificial satellite that shoots beams from the star Sirius. But rather than send a message through, say, words, it instead tries to give its message through images, which is why Dick saw ancient Rome. He even says that it may be trying to upgrade a previous error within the human race. Like, we may be nothing more than organic machines originating from whoever built Valis, but over the centuries, while we've done our job holding information within our DNA, we have memory retention issues. Like, we may have inherited an instinct that makes us afraid of a tiger's growl, but we don't carry the exact memory of why that is. So Valis may have been trying to fix him. Do you get it? I hope.
Kinda.
Exactly. That's how I felt when I put the book down, and I was like, ah.
I think I get it enough to continue here.
Yeah.
But really, I'm just so proud that this just got put into a book and not and not a much more unhealthy outlet for.
I'm just really happy I can put Horse Lover Fat as a tattoo across my belly.
Horse Lover Fat.
And in the back of the book, there's an appendix, which I think may just be all the thing Dick believes in 52 different bullet points. Like 18. Real time ceased in 70 CE with the fall of the temple at Jerusalem. It began again in 1974 CE. The intervening period was a perfect spurious interpolation aping the creating of the mind. Quote, the empire never ended, unquote. But in 1974, a cipher was sent out as a signal that the Age of Iron was over. The cipher consisted of 2 words, King Felix, which refers to the happy or rightful king. Is absolute nonsense.
Oh my god.
I audiobooked the appendix alone because I couldn't fucking, like, what? So I had to have somebody, like, sit there and read it for me. It was ridiculous.
Dude, I would commit atrocities to just see this man analyze 9/11.
Holy shit. Yeah, you're right.
God
the things
damn it.
I wish, oh my God, do you think he would have been a January 6er? No, probably not. He probably would have been like, no, that's 2 small potatoes. Like, you guys still believe the presidents are even real? You know? Do you think the moon landing was fake? You think there's a moon? You know?
If Alex Jones could read. That's Philip K.
That
Dick.
is scary. But honestly, I would love to see the two of them get into a drunken fist fight. I know Alex Jones was a weightlifter in his early years, clearly let himself go, got very fucking fat, but also...
I mean, he's pretty old, to be fair.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. But I would also love to see, same age, him and Philip K. Dick go on it, one out. Like, both of them seem like they would have an argument back and forth until it came to blows. And I would love to see them fight.
Oh, God.
I just, having any kind of, like, training experience in your past life or anything like that, like when you were younger, all that goes out the window when you're just met with just the angriest drug-addled drunks ever, Because now it's just a gorilla with a shotgun at that point, It's fucking scary.
Can't block a bite.
No, I won't say that the book Valis wasn't well received. It was just received. Most people from both sci-fi and literary communities alike kind of said, what the fuck? And they just kind of left it at that. Like, they weren't sure what to say about it. Nowadays, the book is seen as the pinnacle of new wave science fiction, but only because it's so fucking hard to understand. To a lot of people, they think the novel's smart because it's so complex. But it's only complex because Philip K. Dick was fucking crazy. Like, he talks about philosophers such as Plato.
Because Horsemaster Thick thought it was.
Horsemaster Thick from Phallus System. God damn it. He talks about philosophers like Plato and Sophocles, but he also goes over the higher purpose of the Grateful Dead and Frank Zappa. Now, as I mentioned, there's a sequel to Valis that came out the same year in 1981 called The Divine Invasion. It's not a direct sequel. It may not even be in the same universe. The only thing that really connects the two is that there's a movie called Valis that plays in the background of both books. The basic premise of The Divine Invasion is that God actually lived on Earth up until the year 74, but now he's doing a Jesus Christ thing again where he's having another son on Earth and the devil is trying to kill the kid. I think this one was supposed to be a backstory to
I really want to do a Christian thing. I really want to.
Well, you can't drop it because he's fucking schizoid. That's what happens. They're always about this. I don't know why. It's always like a religious thing. They're just like, no, now I'm really fucking into Jesus. And it's like, why? I don't know, man. You know, I don't know. But so I think this was supposed to have a backstory to how Dick thought the Valis system was created. But either way, after the divine... Shut up. After the Divine Invasion's release, Philip K. Dick was intent on completing Valis as a trilogy. Now, Dick's work had actually been adapted to screen once before. His short story Imposter was made into an episode of a British TV show called Out of This World back in 1962, which, by the way, all episodes of are now lost except one. And two other stories of his, The Defenders and Colony, were made into radio programs back into the 50s. But the work was always kind of shitty, so when someone told him they wanted to adapt his novella Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep for the big screen, he was skeptical, to say the least. Actually, when the book first came out, Martin Scorsese was interested in adapting it, but at this point, he was small potatoes, and he didn't really have that kind of pull. At one point, producer Herb Jaffe had the right... Herb Jaffe. You have to remember, you have to pronounce the H when it's a person. Herb Jaffe had the rights to the film, and had his son Robert pen the script. They sent it to Phil ahead of Rob's arrival to Santa Ana to speak with him about the project. When he got to the airport, though, Dick was waiting for him, where he asked, "Shall I beat you up here at the airport, or shall I beat you up back at my apartment?"
Jesus.
He didn't like it. Since then, the novel fell into the hands of screenwriters Hampton Fancher and David Peoples, who finally got the courage to show their efforts to Dick. He actually liked the script, but he still wasn't confident the movie could portray 2019 LA the way he had intended in his head. But the production team invited him down to Hollywood to check out the set. There, they showed him a 20-minute preview of nothing but special effects. After that, he was smitten. He told Ridley Scott that it was exactly as he had seen it in his mind. He was so happy about it that Ridley Scott...
Oh, good.
It was exactly what I saw in my head. What's in your head? Well, let me tell you. Never mind.
You're not going to use this to confirm any weird shit going.
Delusions,
You know what? Never mind. Can I make the movie? Okay, cool.
He was so happy about it, Ridley Scott didn't have the heart to tell him he'd never read the book. Neither did one of the screenwriters who made it. As far as the title goes, we actually discussed it in our William S. Burroughs episode, but the title Blade Runner was taken from a completely different book. When Dick's ex-wife Tessa was asked in an interview why so many movies bother changing the titles of his work when they're adapted for the screen, she said, "Phil often commented that he couldn't write good titles. If he could, he would have been an advertising writer instead of a journalist." He does have some pretty shitty titles, honestly. My favorite is The Man Who Japed.
He's a japist.
That was my first thought. Careful, the man's a serial japist.
What the fuck is that? What is that? I don't know.
Japing is joking. It is an old word for, like, joking. I'm just japing.
Man, I'm just japing you.
We're gonna stop that before it goes further.
Sorry, man. I'm just japing. I'm just being a Just being a japist,
I wonder if that's where Joshin came from, because people are like, doesn't that sound a little too close? Yeah, how about we just call it Joshin each other? Yeah, that won't get
I'm just japing you, bro.
Just japing my bros, you know?
You're just going to go out.
Anyway.
Hit the town.
All right.
Keep going with it.
We could go for hours.
Just fumble more.
We need to not. All right, so anyway. Dick sees the downtown Los Angeles of 2019, and he's fucking stoked. He's behind the project 100%, but the studio knows the end product will be a bit different than the source material itself. So they actually offered the always financially strong Philip K. Dick $400,000 to write a novelization of the movie, a little over $1.2 million today. He refused. Said it would cost him his integrity to dumb it down for 12-year-olds.
I don't think he could have done it.
No, I don't think so
either. To be
either.
honest. We need you to write something coherent for an audience.
Can you do it in less than 7 years? No.
Yeah, no
way. In February, honestly, that I commend him for knowing that he was so shitty that he's just like, nah, there's no way I can do this. Before the movie's out, you guys are making it and it's coming out, what, 2 years from now? Fuck. No. Yeah. In February of 1982, Dick would give his last interview in Rod Serling's The Twilight Zone magazine. While it was spent talking about the upcoming Blade Runner film and Dick's next novel, not the last book of the Valis trilogy, but something else, all his answers would somehow come back to money. How much money he was making, how much he wasn't making specifically, how much things cost. He was lamenting having to rent a tuxedo for the Blade Runner premiere, which wasn't his style. And the producers of the film were trying to get him to stop calling the androids androids. They're replicants now. Got it? A few days later, on February 17th, 1982, Dick's eyesight suddenly began to blur. He called his therapist, who told him to go to the hospital, but he refused. You see that? No, he had a therapist. He had somebody on standby where he finally learned. He was like, hey, maybe my blindness is not... maybe this is a psychotic episode that you told me about, not a message from Jesus Christ.
No, Philip, you can't fucking see. Philip, optometrist.
No, I think I'm getting this. My heart hurts, right? This is an episode. No.
No, Philip, this is doctor time. That's okay. That's okay. There's no conspiracy here. If
we're
it's just,
learning, this is good.
Philip, if it's just a 1-2, if it's a I can't fucking see anymore, what do I do? That's probably not an episode. Time for the doctor.
There's actually, you know how it took you 20 minutes to get through my fucking secretary to ask me these questions? Guess what? If you dial 3 little numbers on your phone, you would get an answer immediately from someone who should help you. But this was the last time anyone would talk with him. The next day, he was found on the floor of his Santa Ana home, unconscious from a stroke. While he lay in a hospital bed, he suffered another one, leading to brain death. On March 2nd, 1982, he was taken off life support. Died at 53. His son Christopher buried his ashes next to his twin sister Jane, who died in infancy, in the plot that had been claimed for him since nearly his birth. 4 months later, Blade Runner would officially be released, and all of a sudden, everyone wants to read Philip K. Dick. Although the movie actually underperformed at the box office, it showed Hollywood that there was a whole lot of movie material hanging out just under this one guy's name. Since then, there's been Total Recall in 1990, based on his 1966 short story, We Can Remember It For You Wholesale. That's another bad title. Which itself had a Canadian television series in 1999 called Total Recall 2070 that lasted 22 episodes and looks absolutely awful. And a remake in 2012.
Do it.
The remake in 2012, which I know definitely was. A French film called The Barreau, which was based on Dick's joke novel Confessions of a Crap Artist, was released in 92. Screamers, based on the 1953 short story Second Variety in 1995, as well as its 2009 straight-to-video sequel Screamers, The Hunting. Minority Report and Imposter came out in 2002, and John Woo's Paycheck in 2003, which earned Ben Affleck the Razzie for Worst Actor. A Scanner Darkly premiered in 2006, and Nicolas Cage's masterpiece Next came in 2007. You ever watch that one?
No.
Oh, that was bad. It's like he can tell the future 1 minute ahead of time.
You just have really shitty precognition.
It was so dumb. Of course it was. It's really funny because
it's like a superpower you'd have, and then you'd figure out, you're like, yeah, it's better if I just don't touch that.
Well, Nicolas Cage actually like recently did an interview where he was like, you want to know why I was in all those really shitty movies? It's because I lost a lot of money during the 2008 recession, and I needed to, and and it's like, oh, so what are you doing now? Oh, a bunch of more bad movies. And it's like, oh, I think this might be just you. Like, I
just don't care.
I heard Renfield wasn't great. I wish for a resurgence of better movies, but he won't do them.
Mandy was cool.
Yeah, honestly, Color Out of Space was good. Pig was good. I heard the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent or whatever, the Pedro Pascal movie. Mm-hmm. I heard that was fun.
It was fine,
I guess. Honestly, that's better. That's how I rate Con Air. So it's like I might as well watch it.
Just like, yeah.
It's weird because he used to be a highly nominated actor for like Leaving Las Vegas and Raising Arizona. Anyway.
Right, well.
I guess people just realized, well, you can't fucking act, can you?
You're just really silly.
You're just fucking goofy. Well, after his death, the literary executor to Dick's estate was, for a while, a friend of his named Paul Williams, who promoted Dick's work through his organization, the Philip K. Dick Society. But since then, the society has dissolved and the estate handed back to his children, Isa, Laura, and Christopher. Together, they created Electric Shepherd Productions, which since 2011 has produced all adaptations of Dick's work besides Blade Runner 2049. I hear the Man in the High Castle show that was on some streaming service is actually very good. Ubik has been in development hell for a while, though plans are still being made. At one point, Michel Gondry was going to do it, which probably would have been cool, but he's not attached anymore. Philip K. Dick had actually once written a script for Ubik in 1974, right after his first interaction with Valis, but the deal never went through. His version of the film would have started out normal, before the movie would lose color, and then the quality of the film would just go down from there as if the viewer were watching the movie's technology go back in time. It would end with the projector burning through the reel.
It's kind of cool, I don't know.
It's a neat concept, but that sounds like it would make for a shitty fucking movie. Honestly, I don't want to watch this. Actually, it might work. I don't know. Anyway, I hope that if they do make it, they do kind of reference that in a scene or something. The last novel Dick ever finished, called The Transmigration of Timothy Archer, was released shortly after his death. Although the book was not intended to be the third story in the Valis trilogy, it's oftentimes been regarded as such to better sell collections as the Valis trilogy. And honestly, The Transmigration of Timothy Archer is kind of about Valis. It goes into the religious implications, if it exists, but the book is more of an offshoot from that universe than anything. It's actually another semi-autobiography, this time about the friendship between Philip K. Dick and a friend of his, a bishop named James Pike. Pike was actually a controversial figure back in the 60s. He was on TV all the time because he wanted to turn religion into something more inclusive. He thought women ought to be ordained, said churches shouldn't be segregated. Crazy shit
Just
like
wild,
that.
out of pocket.
Absolutely not okay. And although he was a lifelong chain smoker and alcoholic, James Pike died because he got lost in the desert trying to retrace Jesus' footsteps. I hope it happens to me. No.
But you are in New Mexico.
Yeah, what I didn't mention, he is a lifelong Mormon as well. Thought Utah was a good place to start. Anyway.
You don't see the footprint? No, dude. What? Stop.
Well, I turned around and there was only one set of footprints. Yeah, because you were dying in the desert, bud. Anyway, the real third book in the Valis trilogy would have been called The Owl in Daylight, and to this day, it has never been published. We don't know how far he'd gotten into it, but of course the sci-fi community loves to say that had the book been released, it would have changed philosophy forever. And either Doubleday or Bantam, I'm not sure who holds the rights at this point, they started looking for someone to finish the project, especially since they already paid Dick for the end product and then the bastard went and died. Dick had said The Owl in Daylight would have been his version of Finnegan's Wake, which kind of makes sense since the term like an owl in daylight means being blinded, and I'm sure reading it would kind of feel like that. Fuck. Hang on.
What you got? You lose
Nothing.
your place there, buddy?
I did because I looked into your beautiful eyes.
No.
And we have...
Oh.
I got lost like an owl in daylight. And we have some rough ideas of what it would have been like, but the problem
That
is...
is not romantic at all.
I got lost in your eyes like
An
in
owl just being
daylight.
like, ah!
I didn't say a barn owl. I meant like a burrow or something, or a great horned, something that doesn't scream and scare the shit out of children.
They all do.
I'm regressing to an early childhood memory. Dad, there's an alien.
It's not an alien, boy. It's a demon.
So we have some rough ideas of what the book would have been about, but the problem is, just like when you're reading Finnegan's Wake, the story kind of changes with each reader. Like, one of his friends got the chance to look at the original manuscript, and he said it wasn't like Finnegan's Wake at all. It was closer to Dante's Inferno. So that might have actually been kind of neat. Just a hell that Philip K. Dick created sounds like a worse hell than anything Dante may have come up with. In 2009, Phil's ex-wife Tessa had self-published her own version of The Owl in Daylight, where she admits it has nothing to do with what Phil intended with the novel, but this is, quote, what Phil's novel should be. The Philip K. Dick estate requested she stop selling the book, which she did, and now copies go for $1,600, and Nicole won't let me get it. Oh, and by the way, Tessa has been releasing a bunch of memoirs throughout the years and living with Philip K. Dick, so she's been coasting on that, it seems. But there's this one cover where...
I feel like, you live with Philip K. Dick, that's hard-earned.
Yeah, for at least one book. She's got, like, several. But she does have this one book where there's this one cover where Dick's got his shirt open and this big space background, and it's just kind of funny. Here it is.
Oh, man, with the cross.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, with the cross. Man, eyes gleamed like a child on Christmas. Just, is this what a bear papa is?
Man, he was a hairy boy.
Oh, yeah. Well, he was a libertarian.
Yo, this was clearly some kinky shit.
Yeah, that photo probably... I'm glad that it stops where it does before it hits the waist.
Before it's just fucking Philip K. Dick's gigantic, insane penis.
This is my horse lover.
Jesus Christ. You know what's also weird about it, though? The pattern on this shirt is... That's a hickory shirt.
What? Let me see. What's a hickory shirt?
A hickory shirt is what they did before high vis for safety, like way back in the fucking day. So like they were doing some kind of weird gruff man role play for this picture. Like loggers in Washington, or loggers in like Pacific Northwest still wear this.
You know what I love more about it though is that it doesn't look like the cross he's wearing touches his skin. It is nestled into his chest hair like a fucking baby going to sleep.
Dude, they're doing like a lumberjack role play of this picture. Yeah, they're like super thick knit cotton
Hell
shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. This is my beautiful big chested
What the fuck
man.
else would you have your chest hair and jewelry on with a fucking logging shirt on if not to fucking do some weird shit?
God bless him. God bless him. But not wanting to be outdone by Tessa, publishing company Arbor House went ahead and released Philip K. Dick's original manuscript for Valis anyway, the one that had been rejected for being too crazy. They retitled the book Radio Free Albemuth. I'm told it's pretty hard to read. Arbor House released it in 1985, same year Joseph Dick, Philip's father, passed away. He outlived his son by 3 years, dying at the age of 86. And although he wasn't a household name until after his death in 82, nor was he properly respected until afterwards, Philip K. Dick has since then become the goal when it comes to writing science fiction. Because there are those who want to write hard science fiction, where your writing is technical and true, like Jules Verne, and there are those who want it mind-bendingly fun, like H.G. Wells. But the truth is, Dick did both. He has been called the Shakespeare of science fiction, and even Roberto Bolaño, author of The Savage Detectives and 2666, whom we covered in episode 48 last season, called Dick Henry David Thoreau plus the death of the American dream. Because of course he fucking did. In 2005, fans of Philip K. Dick built an android in his likeness. No real goal in mind, just thought it was neat. I think he would have been terrified. Sounds like a bad idea.
Y'all settle for just like a wax figure? Like, give it joints. I don't know. Like, fucking move them about. Woo!
Just give it chest hair. They were asked to show it off during a panel for the Scanner Darkly movie in 2006 at the San Diego Comic-Con, but afterwards, American West Airlines lost his head, and the original has been missing ever since. They did replace
Somebody
it,
found Philip K. Dick's
Somebody found that fucking thing.
And the
Opened
funny
that up.
thing, the funny thing about that also to me is like, it would have been returned unless it was someone who understood it was Philip K. Dick's head.
Right?
So
no, that's true.
It
Yeah,
somehow wound up in the hands
no.
of a nerd. It was like, dude, this is mine.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, they'd just be like, dude, I found this weird fucking doll head, like, and it wouldn't be missing.
What's that head that you put pens in the mouth for to you just pull out a pencil out of every once in a while? Dude, let me tell you, somebody did not reclaim this package and it became mine for $200.
Just sitting on somebody's fucking desk upside down, like storing pencils in the nostrils. Like,
I would.
No.
This is fucking great.
The Philip K. Dick android head.
Why does it smell funky in the
You
mouth?
dreaming, bud? Nah, you ain't dreaming.
His conscience is living in that thing and living in hell. He's just, oh my God. Every day I watch this man shower. While Philip K. Dick was inducted into the Science Fiction Hall of Fame in 2005, it was only then that the Philip K. Dick Award, which had been getting handed out since '83, got a little more recognition. It goes to the best science fiction paperback published in the U.S. and is awarded every year. Ironically, the award was created by Thomas Disch before he ever found out that Dick tried to get him arrested by the FBI. In 2011, the exegesis, I've never seen the word before, the exegesis of Philip K. Dick was published by Houghton Mifflin Harcourt at almost 1,000 pages. It's just his actual journal, which he began during the events of 2-3-74 and his introduction to the vast active living intelligence system. Although the book is insane, the editor has called it, quote, absolutely stultifying, brilliant, repetitive, and contradictory. It might just contain the secret of the universe. I'm not sure anyone would any good feedback by calling it, oh, did you like it? Yeah, it was so repetitive and contradictory. Cool, thank you.
Cool.
Dick's sanity has been called into question a multitude.
Dick's sanity.
Dick's sanity. I don't want to bring that into the real lexicon. Dick's sanity has been called into question a multitude of times. But I like what Michael and Susan
Come on,
Walsh...
bro, we're going to fucking hit the strip club tonight. It's going to be fucking Dick sanity.
I need to call up your dad and see if this is what he calls his birthday.
Fuck off.
But I
Dick sanity 2023.
But I like what Michael and Susan Walsh, the people who stayed with him, or that he stayed with after VCon, had to say about it. They said that as one of the small handful of people who lived with Dick, he was technically a psychopath. He didn't have empathy, and those that showed it, he believed were faking. When you go back and read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, it seems as if the test to determine who's an android and who isn't is all based on empathy. There is a tortoise in the desert. You roll him on his back. Why would I do that? Great opening scene.
He's like, I see you're not a real person because you have empathy, and I am Philip K. Dick, and I have no empathy.
Exactly. And according to the Walshes, Dick saw himself as just like an android, with a constant feeling of being hunted, but never sure by who. My sources today: Flow My Tears, The Policeman Said by Philip K. Dick, Random House Inc., First Vintage Books Edition, July 1993. A Scanner Darkly by Philip K. Dick, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt Publishing Company, First Mariner Books Edition, 2011. Valis by Philip K. Dick, Bantam Books, First Edition, February 1981. Philip K. Dick's Final Interview by John Boonstra, PhilipDick.com, originally from Rod Serling's The Twilight Zone magazine, Volume 2, Number 3, June 1982, paragraphs 47 to 52, and the Patchen Review, Number 5, October-December 1982, paragraphs 2 to 6. I was Philip K. Dick's reluctant host, BBC.com, 13th of February 2017, in Wikipedia. I will say, there have been like authors that we've covered where I will go back and say like, absolutely, I'm not going to read anything else by this person, or I'm going to read a select couple things from this person that sounded interesting as I was doing research. But when it comes to Philip K. Dick, I feel like I'm going to continue to buy his book. Like, he wrote hundreds of novels, and I feel like there are ones that I'm going to end up picking up at some point and just go like, let's see what else he thought. Like I mentioned it before, but the Adjustment Bureau, pretty sure he thought that was a real thing. But
a particular weird moment in the Philip K. Dick head.
It's just the Philip K. Dick head. But it's it's just, dude, they're tough. They can be tough to get through. And you know what? God bless him. I hope he's not survived in that android head right now. Just having to watch some fat guy spank it. And
why would it be? Why would that be the scenario?
Because as you said, who else would have kept
Jordan,
the
you're
head?
Projecting yourself onto the owner of the Philip K. Dick android head.
No, I project onto a pillow. I don't project onto the android heads.
That's not what
So
I meant.
I
That's
just
not
think,
what that means.
we're never going to find out if he was correct or not, is all I'm saying. We're never going to know if it really happened. Except him. Maybe after death, maybe I'll be there. Maybe I'll see him.
What really happened? What are you fucking talking about right now?
Valis, man. The Valis, the vast, active, living intelligence system.
The phallus?
The phallus.